All right, let's talk through Mythic Alleria. I'm going to dual screen this to see if it works. Just trying a new thing. But let's just get right into it. Start of the fight, all the ranged are stacked up on the moon marker. They're going to bait the initial obelisks. You can see that here. The obelisks go off basically immediately. We're moving to the right to the triangle marker that we'll have set up. You wait on the triangle marker until the void baits for the puddles on the ground. You see the bait happens there, and then the markers are applied. Melee, you guys can just chill up here in melee. If you get the debuff where you become large and you are going to drop one of these circles, you need to run back here. We want the drops to honestly be like behind this to the right, and then everyone can meet back up over here on the left. Basically, we're gonna the whole phase is we're going Demiar, Morium, and then Varellus, so that we're moving clockwise around the room. We're doing arrow baits. Arrows are just going to be done based on the health of the bosses. Right now, we're aiming for 2nd, 4th, and 6th arrows killing, but it just depends on how healthy the bosses are. If we need to delay by an arrow or do early arrows, we can. You just don't want to hit them with an arrow until they're like about to die. But the movement here is mostly for the first 2 bosses, just so that we can get stacked cleave. As you see there, the baits happen, and then we're cleaving. The Shadow Priest walks up into the middle to get some dots on the 3rd guy, but he just needs to make sure that he gets back to the range before this bait happens. So we're kind of chilling, cleaving. We're pointing these obelisks away from the group. If one baits in melee, just make sure you're pointing it away from the ranged. You want to be pre-positioned when they actually come out, right? So let's say, the boss is here and all the ranged are over here and you're in melee and you want to know where to stand. If you stand here and you get an obelisk baited on you, you're going to want to keep hitting the boss, right? So you're going to move through the boss here. If you do that, all of your arrows are going to be pointed at the ranged and make things a lot harder, right? So you always want to be looking at where the ranged are and standing on the opposite side of the boss from them. Like for the whole fight, we're going to be getting these obelisks, and this is how you want to handle it. So if the ranged are here, you're standing opposite the boss of the ranged, so that when you get an actual obelisk on you, you just move through the boss and all of the arrows are pointed away from the group. That is a very important thing to think about as a melee here. We don't have very many melee, but you want to be thinking about that whenever these obelisks are coming out. The ranged are going to get a 2nd obelisk bait into a gate, which just sets them up to cleave Morium and Varellus. The gate happens at around 55 seconds. We're still focusing on putting these baits away from the group. But yeah, it's basically just heroic. We're just doing a little bit more micro on the movement to make sure we maximize our damage. After that, we go into intermission. It's the same as heroic. We're starting on the circle marker, which is Varellus is right here, and then we just back up a bit to the circle marker. The only difference between heroic is the spinning walls are on the first intermission. So we're rotating, and instead of heroic, where we only went 1 platform, we're going 2 full platforms and ending up on the diamond marker. When we get to the diamond marker, we're going to have our strike team. A rift simulacrum is going to spawn opposite the group. We just kind of want to stack up towards like the middle-ish, and it should bait this rift simulacrum onto the star platform. Our strike team is double warlock, Ellie shaman, mage, and chalupe hunter. They're going to go over there and kill the rift simulacrum immediately after we get out of the intermission. You can see that here. They phase out of the intermission. The gate is already going to be pre-placed. You can place it before the pull. And as soon as the rift simulacrum spawns, they're gating across and killing it. While they're killing this rift simulacrum, there's going to be obelisks that spawn. As soon as the obelisks spawn on the main group, we're moving up towards this corner. And then the obelisks are just going to naturally get baited away from us. If you're ranged and you get this obelisk, you don't want to run all the way to the corner. You want to stand on the edge until it fires, and then you go to the corner. And then after this is when the phase 2 cycle starts. So the cycle of phase 2 is baits, puddle baits, into arrows, into obelisks. And that happens like 4 times, and then we phase. It's just those mechanics on a loop. Now, what do I mean by that? So on Mythic, there are silver simulacrums that spawn that is a part of this rotation. These silver simulacrums are the ones that actually shoot the Ranger Captain's Mark. And the Ranger Captain's Mark, instead of like it being something that we need to worry about getting hit by ourselves to clear debuffs, the only thing we're worried about is hitting Alleria, because it drains her energy, and her energy is what determines when she phases into P3. So the longer we can drain her energy, the longer we can be in P2 and do more damage to the boss. So you see here, a call is made for all the arrows to be hitting the boss. There's one coming from across and one coming from behind them. After the arrows hit, we get obelisk spawns, and these obelisks have to hit these 2 silver simulacrums. You have to snipe them. And the convention that we're going to do is whichever one is close, the ranged obelisk is going to hit that one, and whichever one is far, the melee obelisk is going to hit that one. So every single obelisk spawn is P2, and P2 is 1 ranged, 1 melee. And you want to make sure that you're pre-positioning yourself to get a good spawn that makes sniping these guys easy, right? So again, melee need to be on the opposite side of the boss of the range so they can move through the boss and snipe this far rift silver simulacrum. And you see here, one ranged. The ranged one spawns first, then the melee one. Ranged one is shooting this left silver simulacrum, and the melee one is shooting this far one. And it doesn't matter which line it is, it just needs to be one of the lines. So you see he's actually using the right line in the melee to shoot this far one. Just has to be one line, and that's all we're worrying about. If you're a melee here, you're full stopping DPS if you have to make sure you hit this silver simulacrum. And that just happens 3 times. It's drops into arrows onto the boss, into sniping with the obelisks. Another thing that you can think about is if a silver simulacrum is to the right, the ranged one is to the right, the ranged one to pre-position away from the puddles after the bait so that they have room to move left. They don't want to be sitting in this shit on the ground. They want to have room on the opposite side of the obelisk where they can actually shoot. So we would do a bigger move to the right and then move back left to shoot the obelisk at that silver simulacrum. And that's the entire phase. We do 3 of those, and then on the 4th puddle bait, we gate to the X platform, or we gate to the circle platform. Sorry, we gate to circle, and I think we do 1 more arrow obelisk, but she should phase around that time into P3. So intermission 2 is very short. It's just 2 mechanics. It's not even a real intermission. I'll show it to you here real quick. We basically just stand on the outside of this ring, and she does an AoE around the middle. As soon as that AoE goes off, we move in, and she does an AoE around the outside. And that's the whole intermission. It's not really an intermission, but she's not taking damage until she drops back down. So don't worry about DPSing her there. P3 is going to be the hardest part of the fight. We should get there pretty quick. I'm expecting to see a P3 pull tonight, honestly. But it's definitely the hardest part of the fight in terms of what we have to do and the actual damage that we take. So we're all starting sort of roughly spread around this tip, but try and stay together. She's going to do an aspect of the incast, which is the heroic tether breaks. It's the same in Mythic. And what we want to do is we want to immune as many of the tank ones as possible. So this first one lines up with Devourer DH meta. So we have one of our Devourer DHs, Requiems. He's going to taunt the boss during the cast and then hit meta right as the cast is about to end. And he's going to have iframes there, so the tether doesn't apply. So we only have a ranged and a melee DPS tether. And because of that, there's just 1/3 less damage happening on these mechanics. So we have both breaking insta on this first set because we have a lot of healer CDs here, and we have darkness in the raid. And then as soon as we break and the obelisk spawn, we're jumping across. Now, we don't have a gate here or really any feathers, so we're going to have the dragons gripping the blood decay and the two priests, and then the priests are going to grip 2 more people across. It's going to be the unholy DK and the mage, and then everyone else should be able to get across without those things. So in P3, every single platform is going to spawn the P1 add, a Rift Simulacrum, and do the rest of the mechanics. So when we cross over to this side, Varellus is going to spawn. Varellus is going to get pulled to the Rift Simulacrum. All range DPS are full focusing these 2 adds. Melee, you can stay on the boss unless we decide we need more damage, and you guys are going to have to go hit these guys as well. But the boss cannot be tanked near them because it has the same heroic mechanic where they tether together and get a stacking DR and damage amp. So we're tanking Alleria along the edge of the room, doing these obelisks while we're DPSing the adds in the middle. We want to kill them as fast as possible. And then we go all stack up in this corner for puddle baits. So as soon as they die, everyone's going into the corner, baiting puddles. And then we move to the center of the platform, and we do a tether break. This one is going to be Pally Bubble Taunt, so Mazad Bubble Taunt. So we don't get the tank tether on this set. And then it's just melee ranged break. We're actually going to be juicing this platform, and there's going to be a gate put down. We're going to be sitting here for as long as possible, right on the tip, and the gate needs to go right to the tip of this other platform. And we have an AMZ being cast here as well. As soon as the aspect of the ends cast, we gate, or as soon as the obelisk cast, we gate. And we actually have 3 tethers here because we aren't going to be able to immune this set. So tank is going to insta break into melee, into ranged, and we just need to watch health bars so we don't die here. And again, we do the same thing. There's the adds in the middle. We tank Alleria on the edge. Melee are probably going to have to help with this set. We bait the orbs on the corner, and then we move into the middle. We get another aspect of the end cast. This one is going to be bop. We're going to bop whoever is the active tank. They're going to get bopped and then retaunt. So that they don't get a tether. And then it's melee range break. And then as soon as those tethers and these obelisks bait, we're doing a run and jump. There's no gate here. We're crossing as soon as possible, as soon as this Devouring Cosmos starts casting, because there's an obelisk, a tether right after. This is going to be the hardest tether of the fight because we're kind of low on CDs here. And we need to break these pretty fast because of the obelisks that come out. And then we do the 2 adds again in the middle, and then bait the puddles in the corner, go to the middle for the very last set of tether breaks, and then the boss dies.